think alike. Okay,
There you go.
there, and now we're here. I got a puppy drinking my tea. Okay, I think we're there. All right, so this week we are in Daniel chapter 7 and 8, and this starts his dreams and visions 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And this one is peculiar, but not as peculiar as we get next week. So whatever you do, don't miss next week, because that one's really a challenge. But here we go with it today. So we are looking at history versus visions. And chapters 1 through 6 are history, historic account of Daniel's life, and 7 through 12 are his visions. And if you remember, I said this a couple times over the last couple of weeks, the Hebrew Bible has Daniel as a history book, not a prophetic book. So that is a bit different. And yeah, we'll just get what we can. Consider these things while we look today. Why are the kingdoms depicted as animals? Not as puppy dogs, but as animals. And does each nation have a peculiar character that can be expressed as an animal? And is that still true today? What animal best depicts which nation today? So like we think of the United States and the eagle, maybe. So keep that in the back of your mind as we take a look. What do you think of when you think of heaven? Why does it look like that? And do you have any fears or concerns about going there? And the Bible is very clear that our final hope is not to go to heaven forever, but to live in a renewed physical creation forever and ever. What will happen to heaven after Jesus returns? So we are starting in chapter 7, verses 1 through 14 in Daniel. And so remember, this is like two separate parts. Chapter 7 and 8 fit in between chapters 4 and 5 in what we have read already. So we're looking at like Belshazzar, his time period. Nebuchadnezzar's done, and Belshazzar is up as the ruler. Okay, so there's lots of parallels with this part of Daniel, these last 6, and other prophecies in the Bible. For instance, in Revelation, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Mark, but those aren't the only places. Now, this is odd, but I think we should take the time and read through these verses to give us a feel for what's going on. So, and I'd really like, if you wouldn't mind, I think we lost Anna. So I was going to say either Anna or Mariana, if you could read from your Bibles, because they're going to be different than ours, and I'd like to hear from there, if you wouldn't mind. So Mariana, would you mind reading chapter 7, verses 1 through 14 for us?
I gotta find it first.
Yep, not a problem. We're not going anywhere.
Oh, not okay.
Maybe not for several days.
I see Anna.
Oh, is Anna there?
Yeah.
Well, Mariana, if you could read this one, and then Anna will ask you to get the next one. I'm sorry, I can't see everybody, and I didn't have a little down arrow. There it is. Got it now. Sorry, it's there.
Oh God, I can't find it.
Okay, so it's after Ezekiel. So Isaiah is a really big chapter.
Yeah.
So after Isaiah is Jeremiah, and then you get some other little stuff, but then Ezekiel, and right after that is Daniel. And it's only 12 chapters long, so it's a little easy to miss.
Yeah, okay. Is after Ezekiel.
Yep.
Okay, I'm still there. Oh my Lord, have mercy.
He does.
God, can't find it.
Take your
Then
time.
Daniel 7, did you say?
Chapter 7.
Okay, 7. I mean, oh, I had 3, 7. 1 to 14.
Yes, please.
Okay. In the first year that Belshazzar was king of Babylonia, I had a dream and saw a vision in the night. I wrote the dream down, and this is the record of what I saw that night. Winds were blowing from all directions and lashing the surface of the ocean. 4 huge beasts came up out of this ocean, each one different from the others. The first one looked like a lion, but had wings like an eagle. While I was watching, the wings were torn off. The beast was lifted up and made to stand like a man, and then a human mind was given to it. The second beast looked like a bear standing on its hind legs. It was holding 3 ribs between its teeth, and a voice said to it, "Go on, eat as much meat as you can." While I was watching, another beast appeared. It looked like a leopard, but on its back there were 4 wings like the wings of a bird, and it had 4 heads. It had a look of authority about it. As I was watching, a 4th beast appeared. It was powerful, horrible, terrifying. With its huge iron teeth, it crushed its victims and then it trampled on them. Unlike the other beasts, it had 10 horns. While I was staring at the horns, I saw a little horn coming up among the others. It tore out 3 of the horns that were already there. This horn had human eyes and a mouth that was boasting proudly. While I was looking, thrones were put in place. One who had been living forever sat down on one of the thrones. His clothes were white as snow, and his hair was like pure wool. His throne, mounted on fiery wheels, was blazing with fire, and a stream of fire was pouring out from it. There were many thousands of people there to serve him, and millions of people stood before him. The court began its session, and the books were opened. While I was looking, I could still hear the little horn bragging and boasting. As I watched the fourth, as I watched the 4th beast was killed, and its body was thrown into the flames and destroyed. The other beasts had their power taken away, but they were permitted to go on living for a limited time. During this vision in this night, I saw what looked like a human being. He was approaching me, surrounding my clouds, and he went to the one who had been living forever and was presented to him. He was given authority, honor, and royal power so that the people of all nations, races, and languages would serve him. His authority would last forever, and his kingdom would never end. This is the end.
Thank you so much. All right. Now, as confusing as that is, if you have your own Bibles, I'm sure that it's more confusing in those, but I thought this one might be a little bit easier to read. If you look at the picture that's here, it's a depiction of what's in the Bible. This isn't as bad as you think. So the lion with wings we have seen before. Actually, we've seen almost all of these before in Nebuchadnezzar's vision. So let's look on here, and I just have to get to the right place. There we go. All right, so verses 2 and 3. There's the winds and the beasts, and maybe these represent the whole earth. The number 4, if you remember from the introductory part, it's symbolic, and it symbolizes the whole earth and all the heavens. So maybe that's what it means. The sea is here, and the sea represents chaos. That's always, this isn't me saying this is what it is. This is like Bible stuff that when you write something, this is what you put in place if you want to talk about it. And then we want to compare the beasts with Hosea chapter 13, verses 7 and 8. Now I have my puppy helper here with me.
I have to go get coffee.
So it might take a second for me to get that with Lady's help.
Do you want it, Kathy? I have it on Good News Translation.
Sure, that would be great. Thank you.
So I will attack you like a lion, like a leopard. I will lie in wait along your path. I will attack you like a bear that has lost her cubs, and I will tear you open. Like a lion, I will devour you on the spot and will tear you to pieces like a wild animal.
Thank you. So this does not sound very gentle and very
Nope.
kind. We talked about lions last week, like sleeping a whole lot. This is not a sleeping lion that we have right here. So this is the lion that we're looking at. These are the animals that we're looking at. They're vicious. And they're part of what's gone on. The prophecy is a vision from long before any of this happened. So we go back to Nebuchadnezzar's prophecy, and then we also see that Daniel has a dream that is similar to Nebuchadnezzar's, where we have the lion and, well, let's look on. But we have Greece in here, represented by Alexander the Great. So hang on and let's look. So we have the 4 beasts in Daniel, and here they are. We have like a lion with eagle's wings, were later plucked and lifted from the earth, and a man's heart is given to her. Do you remember the pictures from Babylon? The walls in Babylon, the mosaics? There's lions there that have wings. So that's like the very beginning part under Nebuchadnezzar, when Babylon is this huge empire that he built, and he is so proud of it until he gets like thrown down and acts like an animal for 7 years. And then we have a bear with 3 ribs. And then we have a leopard. And then we have this really weird one that Daniel just freaks out about, and we'll get to that one coming up. So the first one, we have Babylon, that's the lion. And remember, that's the golden head. And then we have the bear, and that's the silver arms and chest. And that's Persia, and that's Belshazzar. No, wrong, I'm wrong. Belshazzar's in Babylon. That's Darius and Cyrus. And then we get the bronze thighs, the leopard with 4 heads and wings, and that's Greece. And that is Alexander the Great. And then this is the one that like everybody questions. And we're just going to go with this for now, that it's Rome. It's the beast that Daniel is very much afraid of. And we'll find out why. So with that beast that Daniel's afraid of, there's 10 horns. And so this is part of the reason that the woman at the Learning Ministries Day said, we don't talk about Daniel. We don't talk about Revelation. We don't talk about those things because we don't know what they are. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that nobody knows what it is. So I'm giving you some thoughts of what it might be from what I found playing around at different sources. So maybe this represents all the kingdoms of the earth, because 10 is a complete symbol. Maybe it represents 10 senators of Rome, 10 emperors of Rome. Maybe it's a special ruler, Antiochus Epiphanes. Maybe it's Nero, maybe it's Hitler, maybe it's other religious or political leaders. People don't know. It looks like maybe it's that Antiochus Epiphanes guy. And I'll show you why as we go on, maybe. My thought, but that doesn't mean anything. All right, and then we're looking at verses 9 through 14, the closing part. We have in Mariana's Bible, I think it said the one who lives forever. In the like Lutheran Bible that I have, they call him the Ancient One. In my King James, they call him the Ancient of Days. And pretty sure this is God the Father. And Daniel sees him in the courts of heaven. Whether he actually sees him or sees like that there's something there, but there's like an amazing scene. And you see more of that in the book of Revelation, chapter 4. So you can read that on your own. Check that out. We're not doing that today for sure. Verses 11 and 12, Daniel is shown the defeat of the beast. That's this like part, the fourth animal. But he is defeated, whether it's Rome, whether it's Hitler, whatever. He is defeated by the Ancient of Days, as well as by heaven's champion, the Son of Man. And we see that in verses 13 and 14. This is the guy who was allowed to come before the Ancient of Days, before God the Father. This guy can come in there. It's the Son of Man. We see that as Jesus. And all the kingdoms of the earth are in chaos. That's the sea. But the kingdom of God comes down from heaven and starts to like make things work out. This gets to be confusing, but I think this is a good representation that helps to keep our mind where we need to be. So we have Babylon, the lion, and it goes with our Daniel chapter 2. We have Persia, the bear, with the silver. We have Greece and Alexander the Great with the leopard and the bronze. And let's say it's Rome with the weird beast that Daniel fears a lot, the iron part. And let's say this is the emperors who are there and who are in charge. And we're going to move on here to chapter 7, 15 through 28. Now, I know this is weird, and I'm sure that you have questions. So keep those in the back of your mind. Let's do the next part of Daniel. Maybe it'll bring some stuff together. Maybe it'll add a whole lot more questions. And we'll go with all those questions after we finish this chapter before we go to the next. So, Anna, would you happen to have chapter 7, verses 15 through 28 for us?
She's muted.
Okay, okay, you need to unmute. So there you go. Good girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? All right. The meaning of Daniel's vision. Daniel wrote, I was terrified by these visions and I didn't know what to think. So I asked one of those standing there and he explained, the 4 beasts are the 4 earthly kingdoms, but God Most High will give his kingdom to his chosen ones and it will be theirs forever and ever. I wanted to know more about the 4th beast because it was so different and much more terrifying than the others. What was the meaning of its iron teeth and bronze claws, and its feet that smashed what the teeth and claws had not ground or crushed? I also wanted to know more about all 10 of those horns on his head, but I especially wanted to know about the one that took the place of 3 of the others, the horn that had eyes and spoke with arrogance and seemed greater than the others. While I was looking, this horn attacked God's chosen ones and was winning the battle. Then God Most High, the eternal God, came and judged in favor of his chosen ones because the time had arrived for them to be given the kingdom. Then I was told by the one standing there, the 4th beast would be a 4th kingdom. to appear on earth. It will be different from all the others. It will trample the earth and crush it to pieces. All 10 of those horns are kings and will come from this kingdom, and the one more will follow. The horn will be different from the others, and it will conquer 3 other kings. This king will speak evil to God Most High. Excuse me, and he will be cruel to God's chosen ones. He will try to change God's law and the sacred seasons, and he will be able to do this for a time, 2 times and a half a time. But he will finally be judged and his kingdom completely destroyed. Then the greatest kingdom of all will be given to the chosen ones of God Most High. His kingdom will be eternal, and all others will serve and obey him. That's what I saw and heard. I turned pale with fear and kept it all to myself. I must admit, while I was reading this, I thought of the one sentence that Pastor Drescher said this morning, and that is, the world is not Christian. It kind of struck me. So I'm questioning, what is this final kingdom that the vision showed him?
Which is kind of what so here, you know, up here we're pretty good. We can see that we have, you know, these 3 pretty certain. All of this is happening. His dreams, his visions are happening while it's still in this time period. And I think he felt comfortable up to here because he had a good view of that himself. But then he gets here to the Rome part, to this weird beast, and he didn't have a clear perspective of that when he was explaining things to Nebuchadnezzar. So I think he gets really freaked out here. And again, I'm going to say that this is Rome, but I don't know for sure, and nobody does. But I guess we'll find out when we can ask the Ancient of Days, the Son of Man, because we don't have it. But so here's the good part. Although we live in an unchristian world, God's in charge. And we know that from back at Nebuchadnezzar, when he thinks he's in charge and all of a sudden God strikes him down and makes him run around like an animal for 7 years. So that's my biggest takeaway from Daniel, from the whole book, that when things get really weird and you get really scared, God's still in charge. He took the Jewish people all the way to Babylon. Eventually, and this comes in this chapter, vision maybe, Jerusalem gets destroyed, but it gets rebuilt. God's in charge. Not always the way we want to see happen, though. So here's Daniel's big concern, depicted in all different ways in the Bible. I don't know that this is the one, but it's a cool picture, right, Ethan?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So this 4th beast, there are kingdoms of the earth always trying to get rid of God. We see that back in Egypt. We see it in Esther. We see it in Acts. We see it in Nehemiah. We see it all throughout the Bible, that there's all these people from other places outside of the Jewish empire who say there is no God. Babylon was that way too, until Nebuchadnezzar is like, oh, wrong. Of course, then he screws up and comes back and back and back. And we see it with where Darius knows that God is God after the lion's den thing. So we do see that coming up and happening. So the little horn, he speaks boastful words. It wages war against the Christians, defies God, tries to change the laws, and he will finally be destroyed by God in the last days. Now, there are people who say that this is the papacy. that it's the Roman Catholic Church. There are people who say, no, it's the Roman Empire. There are people who say, no, it's the United States. There are people who say that it is the European Union. I don't know what it is. I put down Roman Catholic Pope with a question mark because I knew that that would like shake you up. I hope. The one like the Son of Man comes on the clouds of heaven. He is allowed into the presence of the Ancient of Days. He's given authority over all the nations. His kingdom will never be destroyed. This is what Jesus says about himself. In Matthew 26, 64, let me read that for you. In the Bible that I'm using, it says, Jesus said to him, "You have said so."
No,
Talking to Pilate.
this would be 42.
"But I tell you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Sorry, he's talking to Caiaphas. And that's what he says. And of course, that's taken from the Old Testament. And they're like, no, blasphemy, get rid of him, throw him out. But yet he's saying what he knows. And it corresponds with Jesus is the King of Kings. He's the Lord of Lords. He's the one who can approach the Ancient of Days because he's part of that. Like from the very beginning. In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. So we don't get that well. And it's too bad Bob Glassmeyer isn't on here to like jump in there with the Trinity thing. But I'm pretty sure that that's like what it is, what's going on here. This is Jesus, the part of God who can approach the other part of God. And how long is it going to be before this terrible, awful thing is destroyed? Time and times and a half. Huh? What does that mean? Like, and I think that the biggest thing, like you can break that down. We know 7 is the like perfect number, and we can break it down that 3.5 is not perfect. I think the bottom line is it's God's timing. It's not ours. It's not ours to ask, and we can't change it. So like, do we really need to know? Daniel can ask, and part of what I was thinking today when Pastor was talking, I think it was in one of the prayers, about asking to be prophets. And when I'm looking at Daniel, I'm not sure I ever want to ask to be a prophet. Like, do I want to have knowledge like that? I don't think so, because I don't know that I would do well with it.
What kind of knowledge are you referring to? The dreams?
Yeah, like being able to receive those dreams and then being able to try and figure out what they are. Do you want to do that?
I don't think that was his knowledge. He was told by those standing there about his own, and he was told by someone else in regards to the king's dreams. It wasn't his knowledge. He was told.
So
I'm not sure I wanted to be told and know all that, but it wasn't really what he knew. It was what he was informed of.
Anybody else? Any thoughts with that?
I give Daniel a lot of credit for just being a Christian and praying and being kind, and obviously he did better than the other officials when he was third from the top of the kings and things like that. That's where I give Daniel a lot of credit.
He was before Christ, Christian.
What, Mary?
He wasn't Christian, he was Jewish.
Wow.
He's a good guy.
He's Christ in this vision.
In the vision, yeah, but I mean, it's Old Testament.
Yeah.
It's snowy. I told you.
All right. Well, let's look on a little bit here.
What you looking at?
So there will always be, oh, and we heard this today, unchristian, anti-Christian governments, but the kingdom of God will outlast them all, and he will have the victory. Not my words. I found this in one of the reference works that I was using, and I didn't think it could be said any better. And I jumped on that because that's what I want to believe. God's people will be ruled by oppressive nations, but the kingdom of the Lord will triumph and it will never end. We see a lot of oppression throughout the world. 8 minutes.
96.
So, you know, we go with what we got, I think, and just keep coming back to God. And you know, there were times that he changed his mind, right? We saw that in the Old Testament. So why not ask? If you're not happy, ask, talk. And we get to chapter 8. Now, we're not going to read this whole thing. We are back in Hebrew rather than in Aramaic. And we have a ram and we have a goat that fight each other. So, and Gabriel comes in here to explain the whole vision. Anybody remember Gabriel from anywhere else?
The Annunciation.
Ah, so can you say a little bit about what that is? Because it's a really big word.
Oh, when he went to Mary to tell her that she would be carrying Jesus.
All right. So Gabriel's hanging out there to let him know. Is this what Gabriel looks like? Yeah, I don't know. Likely not. But we have a picture here. So we go back to our question earlier. Does art enhance or detract from our knowledge? If I get a picture, it sticks in my head better. That's just the way I learn. So I like to put pictures in, and hopefully they are not bad pictures for you. I'm going to read to you the end part of this, and that's the part where Gabriel explains what's going on. If you want the vision itself, read the first part up through through verse 14, but I'm going to read for you 15 through 27. When I, Daniel, had seen the vision, I tried to understand it. Then someone appeared standing before me, having the appearance of a man, and I heard a human voice by the Ulai calling, Gabriel, help this man understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came, I became frightened and fell prostrate. But he said to me, understand, O mortal, that the vision is for the time of the end. As he was speaking to me, I fell into a trance, face to the ground. Then he touched me and set me on my feet. He said, listen, and I will tell you what will take place later in the period of wrath, for it refers to the appointed time of the end. As for the ram that you saw with the 2 horns, these are the kings of Media and Persia. The male goat is the king of Greece, and the great horn between its eyes is the first king. As for the horn that was broken, in place of which 4 others arose, 4 kingdoms shall arise from his nation, but not with his power. At the end of their rule, when the transgressions have reached their full measure, a king of bold countenance shall arise, skilled in intrigue. He shall grow strong in power, shall cause fearful destruction, and shall succeed in what he does. He shall destroy the power and the people of the holy ones by his cunning. He shall make deceit prosper under his hand, and in his own mind he shall be great. Without warning, he shall destroy many, and shall even rise up against the prince of princes. But he shall be broken, and not by human hands. The vision of the evenings and the mornings that has been told is true. As for you, seal up the vision, for it refers to many days from now. So I, Daniel, was overcome and lay sick for some days. Then I arose and went about the king's business. But I was dismayed by the vision and did not understand it. Okay, so Gabriel tells him how this works out. Remember, this is still in between Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar. None of this stuff happened yet, but it is what happens. So despite all these kingdoms of the earth, God is still in power. And we have Babylon, we have the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greeks, the Romans, and all the others, maybe. The timeline of Daniel, I know that you can't read this well, and that's why like you get it ahead of time and you can go check it out. And this is like, this shouldn't be used in a Lutheran church setting, because see here it says the rapture, and there is no rapture in the Lutheran church. So just know that, like, this is from a very fundamentalist point, but there are parts in here that are good. So we've got Nebuchadnezzar in here, and we've got Nebuchadnezzar's dream going through this, and then where things pick up. So here's the horns and the goat and all that stuff. Take a look at this a little more closely later on, knowing that it is one means of interpretation. The Persians and the Greeks, we got rid of them. So we know this happens, that Babylon is there, Babylon gets conquered. The Medo-Persian Empire steps in, that's with Darius and Cyrus. And that was in Daniel, up through chapter 6. And now somebody else steps in, and it's the Greeks. And we know that because we're told that by Gabriel. And this leader is Alexander the Great. Do you know anything about Alexander the Great?
He leads the Greeks until early death.
Well done. So if you happen to have the Disney Channel, you can go into National Geographic, and there is a National Geographic series, and Alexander the Great is one of them, but it's like digging the archaeological digs of Alexander, which is kind of cool, but it gives some background for him. And so Alexander, he just like went in and took over all this empire in a big rush. And he was successful in a really quick way, but he died really young and he had no kids. So his empire gets divided up between his 4 main like captains or leaders that were there. The small horn is one of the kings from this Greek empire. Gabriel tells us that. It expanded towards the beautiful land. What is that? That's Israel. It sets itself up against the prince of all the armies. So it sets itself up against who? Against the Christians, against the Jews, because we don't have Christians here. Took away daily sacrifices and desecrated the sanctuary. Oh, now we're getting closer to a guy that we can actually find in history. The horn prospered and truth was trampled. He was destroyed, but not by human power. So we have this guy, Antiochus, and he was bad. You can find him in history. You can find him in this this book in the Apocrypha, and he steps in and he goes into Jerusalem. Not only does he destroy the temple, but he like totally messes it up beforehand. He has sacrifices in there to pagan gods. He puts blood all over the place. He brings in Jewish kids and sacrifices them in the
Mm.
temple.
Yes.
He's a bad person. And he destroys the temple eventually. He dies by like a massive hemorrhage.
Good.
Yeah. So, you know, thinking that maybe God is stepping in here and saying, okay, enough of this. Like, I let you be king for a little bit. You screwed everything up. It fulfills the prophecy. You're out of here.
Oh, I don't want to be king.
Well, if you become king, maybe you want to seek God for help instead of trying to do things on your own.
I'll be king of England.
King of England. Oh, good.
You're going to have to marry somebody, but
Okay.
but it might work. Check that out. Keep an eye on the tabloids. See what you can find.
Really.
There's some girls out there. So here we have the 7 world empires, like the ancient stuff, and moving up. So we have Egypt in there. We're pretty good with Egypt, right? We know about that. Assyria, you know a little bit about that. That's Nineveh.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so that's Jonah. We have Babylon in here. That's what we're working with. That's the gold head, the lion, Nebuchadnezzar. We have the Medo-Persian Empire. Okay, and we know about that, and we know what happens there because that's the ram. And then we have the goat in the Greek Empire with Alexander the Great.
Mm.
And then we get down to the questionable stuff as far as the visions go. But let's say this, because I think from what I read, this sounds good. We get the Roman Empire. This is where Jesus is born. This is where we have Caesar Augustus. This is where we have all the things going on with Rome. And we understand, like we have historic knowledge about Rome because we're taught that. And we know that Rome gets divided between the East and the West. And we know that Rome falls.
Ethan.
We're okay?
Oh, he's dancing because it was snowing like crazy.
It is.
Well, it is. It's going to be a lot more.
I know, but
So-
he's all
so
happy.
save your dance for a little bit, but you can dance. It's okay. But move over so we can all see you.
Oh, gosh. I don't want to see it.
There we go. Okay, good. Because, you know, David danced too, but he didn't dance because of snow, but he was definitely joyful. So, yeah. So we have the Roman Empire, and then we have today. And what's going on today? So, you know, if you listen to some of the people on television or you listen to some of the YouTube things, they're going to tell you, like, watch out for Europe. They're going to tell you, watch out for the Soviet Union, watch out for China, watch out for Africa, watch, you know, like, watch out for whatever. Or there's going to be somebody who takes over the whole world. You know what? Whatever it is, look at all of these and know that God was in charge of all of those, and God will be in charge of this today. So I don't have an answer for where that goes, but I do think that God's in charge. So the prophecies here were so precise that when the people assembled the Bible, they thought that they were written after the fact. They thought they were written by the Greeks, backing everything up and saying it. But we have pretty strong affirmation that it was written long before that, like at the time of Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, in that time period. There is evidence that God is the great king above all earthly kings. That should make you feel good. Makes me feel good. Prophecies are fulfilled. up through the coming Messiah. We see that happen. And so part of what I had trouble with in this is here, Daniel gives them this information and he tells them about the Ancient of Days and the one who is the Son of Man. And yet the scribes and the Sadducees and the Pharisees, they know this and they don't see it. They don't see the connection.
Ethan?
Anybody have some comments on that?
Well, in all the prophecies in Isaiah, from the root of Jesse and David's lineage, the same thing. They have the words there on the prophecies, but they don't get it.
Why do you think they don't make this connection?
Because it's very hard to believe.
Over soon. I hope it's over soon so I can go out and play in the
We
sun.
do have, now I lost his name. Who's the guy in John who comes to Jesus and talks to him and says, how can one enter the womb again? And who's that?
Cornelius? Is it Cornelius?
No,
No.
I thought it was Nicodemus.
Nicodemus. Thank you.
Nicodemus,
It
that's
was Nicodemus. And then we have Joseph of Arimathea as well. So we know those two, they got it. And there's probably some others there who did, but they're not mentioned. I don't know. And like maybe I'm blinded to stuff as well. I'm sure I am, and don't see things clearly. So, did God blind the eyes of the people because he needed Jesus to die for us? Oh, the great question. So here's the big thing. God defeats our enemies. It's not our responsibility. But then the question came up for me, where does our responsibility lie? Like the martyrs. When things are going wrong, when John Hus comes in and he says, let me tell you about the real God, not what you are being directed to. When Luther comes in, although he's not really a martyr, but still like redirecting people, should they be doing that? I mean, obviously we think so. So not sure where the line is there with where you go and where you don't go. All right. Back to Daniel. Oh, so I just wanted to tell you, chapter 7 and chapter 8 are two different visions. They are not the same vision, but there is a connection there that we can see. So why is there more than one throne in heaven?
One for God and one for Jesus.
Okay,
It's on the right hand.
we can all agree with that? All right. The description of the Ancient of Days is glorious. It's incredible. How does it compare with Jesus in Revelation? Now, we didn't read that, nor are we going to that right now. So you can check that on your own then and see how that compares. And the same thing here, unless you know this. Revelation 1 tells us about Jesus' face. Why does Daniel not see the face of the Ancient of Days? Why does no one tell us what that face looks like? Let's think about Moses. Moses had an encounter with the Ancient of Days. Did he see his face?
No.
How come?
Wasn't it a fiery bush?
Yeah.
They believed they would die if they saw the face of Jehovah.
Okay, Susie, I heard, but I couldn't hear you clearly. Can you get a little bit closer? Sorry.
No, that's okay. They thought, they understood they would die if they looked on the face of God.
Yeah, yeah, great. So we still don't know that. And we see Daniel, he falls prostrate, right? He just like falls flat on his face. Is it out of fear? Is it out of reverence? Is it a combination? But we don't have anybody who throughout the Bible who has described what the Ancient of Days looks like. We get a little broader picture of all of these prophecies from Daniel when we go into Revelation, but we don't get a picture of that. So why is heaven like a court? And what are the books that are being opened?
Be right back.
I thought you wanted summer.
Ethan, why do you think heaven is like a court?
I don't know.
What happens in a courthouse?
I don't know.
Judgment.
Ah, judgment. Did you ever hear anything like that people would be judged?
No.
No? Well, there's a couple places in the Bible that it says people will be judged. So maybe that's what's going on here. What do you think the books are?
Mm.
Anybody have a thought? Is it Paradise Lost?
The Book of Life.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. We don't have that clearly here, but we do have that coming up in Revelation. So these two books probably ought to parallel one another in study, but I'm not jumping in on that one. So, that's something that maybe we need to look at some point in time and see how they go together. How are these verses actually a comfort to us today? With the courts in heaven, with the books being opened up, with the Ancient of Days, with the Son of Man. Daniel was really scared.
But God triumphs in the end.
Yeah, God triumphs. And like our names are written in the book of life because of Jesus, right? But at the time, Jesus wasn't, at the time of Daniel's vision, Jesus hadn't come and sacrificed himself for us yet. That's coming. But it wasn't there. So I'm thinking that maybe we have a different perspective on this side of resurrection. Let's skip how we describe the Son of Man. If someone asks, why would you say is the way to, what would you say? That's typo, sorry. What would you say is the way to become one of the saints who inherits the everlasting kingdom? If somebody reads this and says to you, I'm really scared, what would you tell them?
Believe in God.
Yeah, I heard that. Believe in God. All right. Let's look at our last part here and we will close up so we can enjoy the snowflakes. Why do you think kingdoms are depicted as animals?
Because we relate to animals.
Well, we are animals.
Well, that's true. That is true.
So does each nation have, are they represented by an animal today?
Yeah, I mean, isn't Russia the bear? Um, what I could think of. We're the eagle.
Yeah, and we see like things change right now. Like most of my background is Germany with history, except the United States, of course. But we see as like Germany changes from all the states that were there to the Prussian Empire and Bavaria, and the animals change through all of that as you go through historic events. I don't know. Should we be looking at that? Should we be thinking? What do you think would be a good animal for the United States today?
Turkey.
What'd you say? A
Turkey.
turkey? Ben
That's what Ben Franklin wanted.
Well, think about that. Think about what you might like.
It's an interesting thought.
What do you think of when you think of heaven? What's your view? Like, and I want you to think about that now. Like, close your eyes and let's just be silent for like 15 seconds. And what is your view of heaven? Okay, is that long enough to get a picture in your head?
Mm-hmm.
Infinity,
There.
endless infinity.
Now there's a picture.
I just saw a gate to the clouds.
Ah, you know what? I saw that too. So why do you think we see that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking it's because it's used like on TV or in drawings and stuff, and that's what hits. I don't really think that's what it is, but that's the first thing that I see in my head when I think. And then I think beyond it, and I think about the pictures in that are described in Daniel, that are described in Revelation. And it has a whole different look, but you don't often see that as pictures or paintings or movies or something like that. The Bible is very clear that our final hope is not to go to heaven forever, but to live in a renewed physical creation forever and ever. What will happen to heaven after Jesus' return? Now that's in Revelation 21. And I don't know that I want to get to that right now. You can read that and see what you think about it. But this is kind of like a shakeup for me when we were in that ministries day a week or so ago, and the speaker said this, as well as what I had found in some research, that, like heaven is coming to earth and God will reform things. Keep that thought in mind. Take a look at Revelation 21. What's this have to do with my life? So we had all these animals, we have all these kingdoms, we have everything falling apart. We have Daniel flat on the floor. We are leaving him with a huge headache, but he still has to go to work. What can we take out of this that's something that's positive for us?
Well, the one verse where it says the supreme ruler you know, those rulers became bad, so to speak, but God will crush them. God will, and kind of we hope that for even our own country, that hopefully God will take over and hopefully help those people who feel so violent not to be violent. God is in charge, even when it looks bad.
Good thought. Anybody else have something to share? Thanks, Anna. Thank you.
I thought it was like Anna and you, that was control.
Okay, I need you to get just a little closer and say that one more time. I almost heard it.
My thought is like yours and Anna's and everybody else's.
Okay, I got my thought is like Ruth, I think.
Okay.
God is in control.
Ah,
That's the
thank you.
that's the
Thank you.
drift of it.
Well, I heard that very, very clearly.
Yeah. Okay.
I know this is tough. Thank you. Thanks for like sticking with it.
Susie just left. She's afraid of the storm.
Yeah, understood. And we are at the end here as well. So anything else anybody would like to say or share?
Yes, Kathy, I think you did a fantastic job because I read that not once but twice. And I must admit you have explained it well with what you have done here. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if you get a chance, read the next 2 chapters because they are really tough. And where this one I could find and say like, I feel pretty certain this is what it is. I'm not sure that I'm there with the next one. So, but the pastor will be back. That will be helpful. And we can just dump on her then. And I know she's going to watch the recording of this. So thank you in advance for that.
Thank you.
Well, thanks.
Bye.
Absolutely. Hey, have a safe week, everybody.
Be careful out there.
Bye.
I gotta walk out and get my mail, my paper before it snows too deep. So see you next time.
Okay.
In
Bye.
Exeter, we don't even have a snowflake yet.
Oh my gosh, it's been snowing
Oh, yeah.
45 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
It'll
Yeah,
get
but it's
Bye.
not late.
Bye.
Okay.
Kathy, before you go,
Yes.
I know we have mutual ministry tomorrow night. Roger usually comes over. You know, he's welcome, but I don't know if he'll want to.
Well, I will try to help him manage Zoom
Yeah.
and see what we can do there. But we'll see what we end up with snow. But if it's supposed to keep snowing into Tuesday, then I don't think he's going to go running around he got a new van.
Yeah.
So, and it's a all-wheel drive. So I know he wants to try it, but I don't think he wants to try it in like 16 inches of snow. However, far be it for me to make that decision.
Right. But
So,
I understand. I don't even know if our driveway will be open.
yeah. Okay. I will be sure and pass that on to him and let him know. Thank you. Okay. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.